Thank you for joining us today. I am Laura Lane, Vice President and COO of the Jacksonville Community Council, Inc., JCCI, and we would like to call JCCI's 39th annual meeting to order, and I invite J.F. Bryan, the 38th chair of JCCI's Board of Directors, to please come to the podium.
Good morning. Do you feel odd, alienated, one of a kind, isolated, any of those things? Well, perhaps you should, given the world around us. Think about it. Here we are gathered together to celebrate the annual meeting of an organization that actually brings people together from all walks of life with diverse opinions to form consensus, to create community visions, and to create a focus for the betterment of our community. That is unique. That is odd. Give yourselves a hand. We want to welcome everybody this morning. We want to welcome all of our elected officials and unelected leaders and all of you present today. We do have two omissions that will not be up on the podium today, and so let's dispense with that early on. Our President-elect, Rabbi Joshua Leaf, both these people had last-minute flimsy excuses for not being with us. The rabbi had a baby yesterday, you know. Our past grand poo-poo of this organization, John Harabashi, he's on his honeymoon, so, you know, we will move on. I'm pleased at today's annual meeting to recognize our sponsor, Deutsche Bank, a growing major employee. In fact, they were in the Wall Street Journal, I believe, yesterday about their move to Jacksonville and how beneficial that's been to them and their employees. They're a corporate leader in our community, and many thanks to Mike Fleming and all the good folks at the bank. As departing chairman of the board of JCCI, this year has been, well, hectic. It's been unlike any year. We've been involved in so many things this year that you will hear about shortly, and this meeting's about stories, and you'll hear about our hectic story for 2013. People and their stories are what we are about celebrating today at this event. The stories make up the fabric of our community. These stories have impact. JCCI's programs have stories. Our Forward program tells a story of how we are all working in a variety of ways to develop the young talent that will be Jacksonville's future leaders. And our indicators and data programs tell Jacksonville's story not only by the numbers, but with the numbers. For decades, these numbers have told us where we are, where we want to go, and how much further we have to get there. Then there's the JAX 2025 story. This story was transformational in many ways, and one of the things I'm proudest of, not only for JCCI, but for our city. The organization has been introduced to people on a whole new level due to this initiative. And the results, actions, and impacts continue to impress. These and all of JCCI's programs fulfill our mission, which is found on the back page of your annual report. Every day, JCCI is driven by the bold idea that together we can build a better community. We bring people together to learn about our community, engage in problem solving, and act to make positive change. Our warmest thanks to Jennifer Chapman and Fidelity Investment for being our printing partner again this year. Not sure what a printing partner is. I think that means they paid for it. Because of them, you will be able to find in your report that we continue to provide outstanding programs that you have come to expect from this organization. You can read the results for yourself. But this is also our business meeting where we have some business to take care of. And the first order of business are thank yous. So far forward, a program celebrating its lucky 13th for the number of years it's spent engaging our young and emerging leaders in our community. We thank Lee Poachman. Lee served as chair, and we recognize the work of his team. I don't know if Lee's here, but let's give him a hand. He may be on his honeymoon, who knows. Our incoming chair is Leah Donnellan. We wish to wish you every success as you take the reins this year. And Leah's here, I believe, and let's give her a hand. There's Leah. For our data and indicators programs, the Quality of Life Progress Report, which has been publishing local data for over 150 indicators for 28 consecutive years, we say thanks to the entire review committee, which was headed by Greg Smith. Let's give them a hand. Our Race Relations Progress Report presented its 8th annual report detailing where locally we have made progress and where we have much work left to do. And we want to thank Vilma Consuegra and her review team, and also to Mosh and their executive director, Maria Haynes, reached out to us to partner with them on the race exhibit, which was outstanding. I hope all of you had an opportunity to see that at Mosh. The work of our 2 implementation task force continues, and great strides are being made. We're wrapping up the 2nd year of an effort made by the team that Tom Patton leads, where we focus on recession recovery and beyond inquiry. By the way, we no longer do studies, we now do inquiries. And we want to thank Tom. Let's thank Tom. And Christine Lester and her task force are dealing with recommendations that came out of the Children 1, 2, 3 inquiry. And this year, they too have many notable successes, which are listed in your report. Our thanks to all of those involved for their hard work and results. This year, JCCI provided 383 opportunities for people to engage around important topics. This is up 60% over last year, and no program impacted our organization in Jacksonville quite like JAX 2025. We had an outstanding steering committee led by our tri-chairs, Silverback, as we know him, Carl Cannon, Jacoby Pittman-Peel, and Oliver Bearcat. Let's give them a hand. And you and many others engaged, showed up, and did the work by contributing more than 9,650 hours of time to learn, engage, and act in this process. I believe we had over 16,000 people involved in the JAX 2025 process. That, ladies and gentlemen, contributed to a total increase of almost 580% in JCCI participation over the last year. And for that, we thank and celebrate you. Give yourselves a round of applause. So this year of accomplishment has ended, and a new year has begun. And with it, there is a new team. Shifting gears to the election portion of our annual meeting, I want to ask Ben Warner, our President and CEO, to come forward. But first, I want to bring you up to date on the fantastic job he did this year. JAX 2025 stretched this organization to its outer limits. We were understaffed before it started. We are still in the midst of developing a developmental tool to replace former city funding and other funding which no longer exist. But on top of all of that and the successful rollout of JAX 2025, Ben's been recognized internationally. The Prime Minister of Germany, Merkel, invited Ben over for a seminar and paid his expenses, flew him over free, etc. So we're recognized. I mean, the work we do here is probably not as well known here as it is in Germany and other places. In New York, he was invited by a UN group last month to come to New York to talk about what we're doing here in terms of JACS 2025 and our quality of life. And next week he goes to Chicago to receive an award from a group of people that do quality of life type reports for our outstanding work here. So Ben's done a fantastic year, and we want to thank him and show our appreciation.
I don't remember that being in the script. We've been fortunate to be able to recruit wonderful people like JF to serve on our board of directors, each of whom bring unique skills and perspectives to their roles. I would like to recognize and thank those board members who are rotating off of the JCCI board this year. And as we call your name, if you would stand and remain standing until the end of the list. Jennifer Chapman, Jarrett Conrad, Broderick Green, Bill Mason, Jean Miller, Amanda Patch, Lee Poachman, Candace Thompson. I think we already mentioned John Hirabayashi, who couldn't be here because of his honeymoon.
All right, thank you all for, Thank you all for providing outstanding leadership and contributing directly to improving the quality of life in Jacksonville and beyond. We will move to the election of the new and returning board members listed on the screen. Please stand up and remain standing until the completion of the election. Ben?
Martha Barrett, Lee Brown, J.F. Bryan IV, Rena Coughlin, Lena Donnellan, Ann Egan, Angelia Hires, Kevin Hyde, Coley Jones, Matt Kane, Joshua Leaf, Jennifer Mansfield, David Meyer, Peter O'Brien, David Peasy, Stephen Poland, Crystal Roundtree, Derek Smith, Jim Stevenson, and John Thompson.
The nominating committee has proposed these board members for fiscal 2013-14. I will now call for a vote by all JCCI members present. All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Congratulations to our 2013-14 board members. Next will be the election of our officers of the board. Will the candidates please stand with us at the podium until the voting is complete? Ben?
As chair, Joshua Leaf. As chair-elect, James Stevenson. As secretary-treasurer, Peter O'Brien.
The nominating committee has proposed these board members to serve in the offices listed. I will now call for a vote by all JCCI members present. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations to our new officers and the entire team. Well, now it reads that I'm supposed to have the pleasure to pass the gavel on to Chairman of the Board for 2013-14, Rabbi Leaf. But in lieu of his unusual circumstances, prearranged circumstance, I will call on Chairman-elect that you just put in that position, James Stevenson. James?
Thank you, JF, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know Joshua, Peter, and myself are very honored to be with you today and to be elected to serve you all as the 39th board of JCCI. And we certainly are humbled by your trust and confidence in us, and we look forward to working with each and every one of you with the new board and the JCCI staff in the year ahead. So thank you very much. Since you're already here at the podium, on behalf of the Board of the Directors and the JCCI staff, we want to thank JF for all your leadership this past year and the willingness to continue on the board. if you'll permit me a little nautical metaphor, JF has kept a firm grasp of the JCCI tiller as we've gone through this year and kept the JCI ship very much clear of any shoal water. This man's compassion, the wisdom he provided to the board and to the staff, and the dedication that he displayed in going to about half of those venues that were mentioned today is unbelievable. And so we thank you very, very much for your service. I guess we have a little memento that we'd like to present to you. And please accept this with gratitude of not only the board but the staff for all that you've done for us in this past year.
Sir.
Thank you, Jay.
All right.
Well, as mentioned before, the theme of today's meeting is storytelling. And we have a few personal stories to share with you today. And these stories serve only as a small example because there's actually thousands and thousands of them in this great city. And we sincerely hope that the ones that you hear today will inform, inspire, and even encourage you to tell your own stories, perhaps next year at this very venue. Please help me welcome our first storyteller, the President and CEO of WJCT Radio and Television, Michael Boland.
Welcome to the studios of WJCT. When Laura, well, she didn't ask, I was voluntold that I was going to be speaking today. I didn't appreciate the context, so I'm going to go off script, but ever so briefly to share my story as it relates to JCCI. I came to Jacksonville in May of 1999, and for better or for worse, one of the reasons I am here is because of JCCI. I was living in South Florida at the time, grew up in the Midwest, had no idea or any interest in moving any further north than Miami, Florida, because of the cold weather. But the prospect of coming to Jacksonville was not high on my list as a result. But as I did my homework, one of the things I found, and again, appreciate this is in the spring of '99, I found this organization called JCCI. And the prospect of a community like this one having an entity like that does the kind of work that they do was very impressive, and voila, 15 years later, I am still here. So that's my personal story. Now I will follow my script. But it certainly gives you some causes to help appreciate the words I'm about to share with you, because about the great personal pleasure it affords me by sharing this information with you. And that is that I'm here today to tell you something very exciting. JCCI, one of Northeast Florida's unique assets, is moving in with WJCT. And this arrangement is no casual affair. In December, JCCI will be relocating into the WJCT building after many discussions about the shared missions of our respective organizations. Frankly, it's been a vision I've had for a number of years, and I'm glad to see it coming to fruition. One of the three tenets found in the mission statement, in our mission statement, WJCT, is the big connection with JCCI, to promote civic participation. Both organizations are the go-to for the everyday resident who wants to learn about Northeast Florida. We are the places where people learn about the local effects of national developments. We are where people get a chance to speak up and out before a mayoral election, after a disaster, and during a Great Recession. In many ways, both WJCT and JCCI are the organizations that start and then advance the conversations that later frame community decisions emerging from the ballot box, boardroom, or editorial page. A relatively recent example of how JCCI conversations bloomed into full-blown community priorities was when the organization's volunteers defined a problem with Jacksonville's finances. In 2009, the city report recommended on page 1, and I quote, "Open up the budget process. Meaningful public involvement builds confidence that the system respects community priorities." WJCT took this recommendation to heart In our news reports, our call-in talk show, and all of our related programming, we encourage listeners and viewers to learn what the Jacksonville City budget priorities were. We created opportunities where we invited others to share their voice in the discussion of how their tax dollars were being spent. In short, the conversation about city finances started at JCCI, was continued and magnified by WJCT. Programs such as First Coast Connect and First Coast Forum literally give local people a voice by focusing on local issues and topics and by asking listeners and viewers to share their opinions. The success of such initiatives has been very gratifying. Citizens have told us over and over how much they value the opportunity to think and talk about decisions and events that affect their lives. WJCT's broadcasting brings elected officials and voters together through digital media, which makes democratic desires real. Because of the JCCI meetings and WJCT broadcasting, a JCCI topic or question will be unleashed on thousands more listeners and viewers who care about Northeast Florida. Residents will get to tell their elected officials what is important to them. Again, I'm excited about this partnership. It means that community research and convening of residents, done so expertly by JCCI, will more quickly share WJCT's news and public affairs programming, share and shape that programming. And through the digital media tools at WJCT, the bold idea that together we can build a better community will become a taken for granted assumption by thousands of people. All of us living on the First Coast will be better for it. I thank you for the opportunity. Well, following me as for the program is Dr. Kelly Wells.
I don't know what I was waiting for. Maybe I was waiting for the music to start playing or something. At any rate, I'm here, and my name is Kelly Wells, and I am the new director of the Florida Department of Health in Duval County. And so thrilled to be with you today, and so excited to share in the great work that is being done in this community. I'm here to tell you a story of community improvement, and it takes place over a period of 12 years. And I want you to clearly understand that lasting, substantial change is possible, and it does happen, and it is happening here. Since World War II, a number of interrelated social changes have contributed to a rise in obesity and overweight around the world. The World Health Organization reports that worldwide, obesity rates have nearly doubled since 1980. Jacksonville has also seen such an increase, and in 2002, 56% of adults were overweight or obese. In 2007, that number went to 62%, and currently, based on our most recent 2010 data, 64% of adults are overweight or obese. Now, these numbers are important, but of greater importance are the numbers where childhood obesity and overweight are concerned. The rate of childhood obesity is all important because children who are obese are more likely to develop chronic disease as adults. Childhood obesity is a complex issue, and it has multiple root causes. Each child, of course, is different. We, as a community, must recognize that there are a variety of factors that cause this problem, and they include the increased availability of convenience foods, a lack of access to healthy foods, a decrease in safe places to live and to work and to play. I'm sorry, we're not sending them to work yet. Unless you're my kids. These are just a few of the policy and environmental factors that influence a child's overall health. Much like childhood obesity itself, these environmental factors are exacerbating or leading to other chronic health conditions, like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And it's happening at rates we've never seen before. Understand that what we're seeing is diseases that we used to diagnose in adults, now present in children. While it seems that our community and our children are facing an uphill battle, there is much cause here for celebration. In 2008, 14% of high school students reported themselves as obese. And 4 years later, that number is stable. This is because Jacksonville as a community has begun to prioritize childhood obesity, and our policy work and programmatic efforts are making an impact. We see the effects of citywide mobilization of people, of dollars, and of good policy. For 12 years now, more than 125 parents, health professionals, and community organization representatives have been working together to overcome the obstacles that prevent our children from growing up healthy. From this Healthy Jacksonville effort, the Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition originated. Since the 2009 community call to action, the coalition, through funding from the Florida Blue Foundation and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, has provided grants to 35 community organizations and have shaped policies through evidence-based evaluations directly impacting more than 51,000 children. Most of this impact is in the area of healthy eating and living. Additionally, the coalition has trained 413 healthcare professionals to increase their awareness of local programs so they know what's available for the prevention and treatment of childhood obesity. A recent report on childhood obesity from the CDC shows that Florida is one of 19 states where obesity in preschoolers declined between 2008 and 2011. The report shows that there is a correlation between community partnerships and this decrease we're seeing now, and this is occurring around the country. There is not a simple solution to reverse what I believe is a health crisis. We know that childhood obesity prevention requires policy change, behavior change, institutional change, environmental changes, as well as changes in funding priorities. There isn't a magic bullet, but I can tell you that there are core components, necessary conditions for preventing childhood obesity, and they are community vision and collaboration. More than 12 years ago, we had a vision here in Jacksonville for collaborating on addressing childhood obesity, and from that initiative, the Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition was developed. It is that focused vision that has kept this as one of the longest running grassroots coalition going strong. JAX 2025 has reinforced that desire to come together to prevent our children from living shorter lives than we do. Maintaining this vision of lasting change in our schools, our markets, our neighborhoods, and in our food system is more than just an idea. It is our action in progress. I'm so thrilled to connect my passion, my skills, and my commitment to yours. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Hyatt. I'm Executive Director of the Cathedral Arts Project, where we're celebrating 20 years of service to Jacksonville. I'm here today to tell a story about shared values and our commonly held desire for all children to have access to a well-rounded education, the kind that endows their spirits with imagination and self-confidence and a will to succeed. The state of Florida is one of 5 that does not require elementary schools to offer any instruction in the arts at all. Now, while our superintendent and school board have ramped up the offerings at the elementary level for visual arts and music, there's still virtually nothing in the areas of theater or dance. And so into that void, Cathedral Arts is now serving 1,200 students during the school year with free instruction in the visual and performing arts. And we're thrilled about all the community support that makes that kind of intensive instruction possible. But with a public school enrollment of over 127,000 students at 192 schools, we've always known that even if we win nonprofit Powerball, we'll never be able to serve all of these students. To serve 127,000 kids at 192 schools day in and day out will require systemic change and creative thinking and collaboration. And so while working on our new strategic plan, the amazing work of JAX 2025 was going on around us. And it was fascinating to see so many people and so much energy around creating our city's future. And so seeing all of this inspired us to think differently at Cathedral Arts, and so we applied for the Kennedy Center to select Jacksonville for their Any Given Child program. And when the vice president and other officials from the Kennedy Center came to Jacksonville for their site visits, they recognized some things. Our entire community had decided in a public and open fashion that arts education is a priority. The Kennedy Center officials saw the JACS 2025 vision for a vibrant arts community. They paid attention to the fact that thousands of citizens agreed that we had to do something to improve arts education. And so as a result, Jacksonville has been selected as the 14th site for this program. And that means that this time next year, we will be implementing a plan so that every child in kindergarten through 8th grade who attends public school in Duval County will have an equitable arts education. Every child, no matter which school they attend. Any grant writer knows that telling a good story can make all the difference. And what was so great was that with JACS 2025, our city came together to tell the story for us, the story that we want our children to thrive. Now, we know that not every child is going to grow up to become a professional artist or dancer or musician or actor, but everyone, every single person can grow up to pursue the aesthetic dimension that is possible in any kind of work, so that work becomes satisfying and engaging. The arts are critical to engaging and thriving in all of life, including our economic life. We all see too many students and too many workers bored and going through the motions. If you are returning to your office this afternoon, before you even arrive, you can probably identify those disengaged colleagues with whom you work. Employers need workers who are interested in thinking innovatively and working collaboratively and solving problems. And those are exactly the skills that people learn through the arts. And yet it's not that easy to find. Just recently, for an office position I was hiring for at Cathedral Arts, a person who looked terrific on paper and had already made it through 2 preliminary interviews, she was interviewing with me, and I said, "What kinds of things would you not enjoy doing?" And she said, "Well, I don't really like to have to figure things out. I don't like to have to solve problems." Now, while maybe most people would not confess to that in a job interview, it's safe to say that that attitude is far too common. But imagine if Jacksonville had a whole population of workers who do like to figure things out, who love to solve problems. If we had that, well, we would have a thriving economy and a quality of life that would be the talk of the nation. JACS 2025 brought people together who talked about the problem of the lack of arts education and decided we need to work together to solve it. This demonstrates who we are in Jacksonville and the kind of life we want to create for our children and grandchildren. There are 3 kinds of people in the world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. If JACS 2025 has shown anything, it has shown that in Jacksonville, we are the kind of people who make things happen. Thank you.
If you think about it, we journalists are essentially storytellers, and I'm happy to say that you pay us to do it. The Times-Union might seem to just be a jumble of random stories every day, events that happened yesterday, or sagas or anecdotes that struck our fancy. And some of them are just for your amusement or interest. When will the Jags win their first game? Shouldn't Tebow just get a chance? And how about that new Nordstrom's coming out to St. John's Town Center? Some of our stories are even fiction. Not the ones you're thinking about, those are true. But when Terry Dixon writes about Bubba Jean Hightower, the mayor of Ponscoggin, Georgia, I have to tell you, he doesn't really exist. But most of our stories are very real, and most have meaning beyond the words on the page. Today, our front page told the story of Graham Hill of Jacksonville, the pilot who skillfully and calmly crash-landed his disabled airplane into a pickup truck to avoid endangering people on the ground. A cop called his father, told him his son was okay, and he's a hero. We like those kinds of stories because they recognize, encourage, and model good behavior in our community. Also today, our Metro Front reported that the Clay County School Superintendent is using public money and endorsement to hold a conference that's politically tainted. We report these stories because we are your watchdog. I write a weekly column that sometimes tells stories that I think have meaning beyond the simple narrative arrangement of facts. I think they say worlds about our community, or I try for them to. I like to write about personal fulfillment and self-actualization, so I told the story of Mashid Fatima and how she came here as an 18-year-old from Iran to go to college and stayed, brought the rest of her family over and built a successful life. And now you can get her curry chicken salad over at Green Earth on Hendricks as part of our international community we don't celebrate enough. I like to write about points of inflection in people's lives. So I wrote about Nat Glover and how his successful life easily could have gone the other way except for a couple of points of inflection. And I wrote about Alicia Oldham, a young woman whose life did go the other way until she turned it around in our town with the help of the City Rescue Mission, the Sulzbacher Center, a federal HUD program, FSCJ, and her own personal determination and hard work. I like to tell stories of redemption. So a couple of weeks ago, I told you about Sean, who didn't want his last name used. He's trying to redeem himself for child sex crimes that he committed a long time ago. He's working hard in a community program begun by Florence Harridan, who is working to redeem herself in her own eyes by overcoming her own obesity and depression by serving other people in the community. I like to write about epiphanies. So I wrote about Jay Velez, who was drifting through life, and Yvonne James, a middle-aged single mother who was a waitress in a barbecue joint, how they worked their way through FSCJ, and now they're going to graduate school in the Ivy League out of our community. I like to write about passion and caring and building among our community institutions. So last Sunday I was able to write about Alden Road Exceptional Student Center and compare it to China, where they don't do that, and where we have wonderful people, thanks to your tax dollars, taking care of exceptional children and helping them grow into becoming citizens in our community. Some of our most important and mission central stories really are about complex problems. We spent 8 months investigating FSCJ and covered a lot of problems we don't need to talk about here, which are being fixed. We wrote about after a JTA bus driver drove over one of his or her passengers. We investigated JTA bus drivers and found that many of them had criminal records and bad driving records. We told the director, and he said, "Really? I didn't know that." He's now the former director, and JTA is fixed. And a lot more investigations that you see us do and that we're doing now. Some of our stories are ugly or discouraging to us in the community, and that's part of our responsibility too. Last night I was at the anniversary celebration of the Small Business Center at the Chamber of Commerce, and Wally Lee, the retired president, told a story about 22 years ago when a white male judge in Jacksonville, I wasn't here then, but this is his telling, made an outrageously racist comment. And Wally said, unfortunately, the Times Union put it on the front page. He said, below the fold on the front page. So what happened was there were demonstrations in his telling. Jesse Jackson came to town. The community got outraged. I'm not quite sure what happened to the judge, but according to Wally, a lot of community institutions changed, including the Chamber of Commerce, where they got together and started the Small Business Center as a result of that incident with the ugly racist comment by the judge. Well, go back to when I started the story. I said Wally said that unfortunately the Times-Union put it on the front page. Fortunately, we put it on the front page because it caused the reaction that led to the community changing and started a number of things, including the Small Business Center. It's a different view of storytelling, and it's what we do. Read over time and context, these stories together accumulate into a much more powerful and meaningful story, what we call a master narrative for our community. Our master narrative is built on civic journalism designed to inform and engage readers on important local issues and then hopefully enable and empower them to get involved. I call it the journalism of hope because it's solution-oriented. The master narrative for Jacksonville examines higher-level patterns and developments bigger than our individual stories, accumulation of the stories, both progress and pervasive issues. On the very positive side, I've written extensively and we've reported extensively about the new generation of leadership emerging in Jacksonville to add to the strong existing leadership. Saturday night at a dinner party introducing Nancy Cable, part of the new leadership with the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, I was able to point around the room and also introduce Tim Cost, the new president of JU, Numa Sasselin, who now runs the Florida Theater, Paul Astelford, who I think is here, who's running Visit Jacksonville, and Marcel Polednik of MoCA. All new leaders or relatively new leaders in our town. There are lots more leaders new and established in this room. But on the other side of the community ledger are the stories that we hate to tell. My least favorite part of the Times-Union is a page inside the Metro section. We call the feature Law and Disorder. We're probably going to change it because it seems too frivolous for the subject matter there. It's really our police report, arrests, convictions. And the stories that I see there just break my heart. Some of them are just mean, worthless people, but most of them are something else. I see an endless stream of mugshots of, frankly, mostly young black men. You can read their stories in their eyes in the photographs that we carry there. They're angry, sad, confused, lost. They're criminals now, most of them, but they started out as kids, as children in our town who had a future here. Somehow their families, we as a city, and of course they themselves let them down. It's a storyline we have to change. So our journalism is really a grand epic novel in the making. Whether it's a tragedy or a triumph is still unwritten and will be written largely by the people in this room. Thank you.
Wow, what great stories. Let's give all our storytellers another round of applause. Well, I mentioned before that these are only a few of our stories, from billboards to crime, to mental health, to infant mortality, teen pregnancy, to JAX 2025. The work of all of us involved in JCCI do become part of the Jacksonville story. And JCCI's efforts are impactful and truly affect the lives of citizens and this community. And we need more of you to help create the next chapters and the next stories to tell. There's a variety of levels in which you can become engaged and in what support that allows you to keep us doing what you want us to do. And some of these things will be shared as information on your way out. Our next big event has already been funded by investors like you, so it's free to attend. It's the JAX 2025 Quarterly Luncheon on Tuesday, October 29th at 11:30 right here in this room. And we encourage you to mark your calendars and please RSVP. This event itself was sold out almost a week and a half ago. So the word's getting out, people want to attend, and please sign up early. At that luncheon, we'll be updating the activities of each of the force task forces. And we encourage you to get caught up on where JAX 2025 is and kind of see where your fit might be so that you can be actively involved. I believe that really wraps up the agenda for today's luncheon. I would like you to join me in thanking the JCCI staff who truly made this event possible. A lot of hard work, and with everything that they do, let's give them a round of applause. And thank all of you for your participation today in our annual meeting. And we hope you enjoyed it and will continue to learn, become engaged, and to act with JCCI. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.